Hey guys, another project going on at the old Japanese farmhouse. Some of you might remember this guest house that we renovated recently. Looks a little bit better than that now. And next door to the guest house was this shed. It's the biggest shed, it's just one giant room. They used to have vehicles in there, used to take vehicles in there through those sliding doors. So pretty good sized room. You've seen inside that already, of course, in one of the other before and after videos. And this thing here was actually twice the size. This thing that's on the outside was actually twice the size it is now, and it was a chicken coop. So this structure wasn't approved. This chicken coop thing wasn't actually approved when it was built. It wasn't approved by the city. So when we bought the house, the owners had to demolish it to a point that the city would be happy with, because as it wasn't legal. So they sort of half demolished it to the point that the city approved it, but it left us with this. And you can see there's an original mud wall there with the bamboo filling, and they can't get wet. If they get wet, they fall apart. So this is all just very ugly and questionable, isn't it? And because it hadn't been built right, white ant had got into the wood, and the metal had also got rusty, so we need to deal with that. And then, just to make it interesting, there's another one around the corner, exactly the same story. That was a chicken coop as well that they've half demolished, so we need to do something with that as well. And to make it interesting, that wall there is actually less than a metre from the boundary, so it's a very close little confined space there at the side. They've built this building right on the boundary of the back of the property, so very narrow space. Basically that wooden structure on the left there is built right to the boundary, so that's all we got to work with there. So you can see a fair bit needs to be done here. Bit rusty up the top there. So, and also around the back was a bit worse. They hadn't done any maintenance back here at all, obviously. They'd patched up, they'd made a hole there for some reason, like a window, and then they'd patched it up, which is reasonably solid. It looks ugly, but it's actually reasonably solid. Fair bit of rust here, so it's just sort of all sad looking. No one comes around here, and it's actually pretty well protected. You can see again it's less than a metre from the boundary as well, so nobody really goes around there, and it's protected by the big house next door, but we still need to do something with it. So first thing was to demolish the chicken coops, what was left of them. They're pretty solid. When I say they weren't built properly, there was a couple of errors they made, like putting the wooden stumps straight into the ground and things like that. Obviously an error, but they'd actually built them fairly structurally well. They're pretty solid. Very solid. That was a horrible place to work there. There's less than a metre, basically the width of that little roof there, to work in. So it was pretty tricky. Demolishing something while you're standing under it's fairly unnerving as well. That's fairly heavy, that roof structure there. That's fairly heavy. Wouldn't want that falling on your head. But there wasn't really a lot of option. Had to keep working under it. It's a bit scary for the unskilled labourer, but anyway. Never know quite how much of these things to show you, but you can always jump ahead if you find any of this boring, I guess. But yeah, this is fairly unnerving. That was pretty scary. Like that game, you know, the game you keep taking out a block until it all falls down. It was like that. Keep pulling out something, thinking, is it going to fall? Is it going to fall? That rusty corrugated iron would cut your head off, wouldn't it, if it came down on you like that? Horrible thing it was. Really dusty too. The whole structure was full of dust. It was horrible. See? Anyway, got it. And this is the first time the unskilled labourers actually worked with corrugated iron. Zero experience working with corrugated iron, so it was a bit of a learning experience. But you know, with these sort of things, it's logic. Obviously, experience would be good. It would have been fantastic to have some dude alongside who knows what he's doing with this sort of thing. Would be useful. But most of this stuff's sort of logic, really. Just got to stand and look at it for a while and think about it. It's the one thing the old guys tend to do more than the young guys, I think. More standing and looking. It's actually worthwhile. It's quite often worth spending 20 minutes, 30 minutes looking at stuff. That's something you don't see in these videos. All those bits get cut out, but there's a lot of standing and looking that goes on. Standing and looking and thinking about it and sort of measuring and testing and sort of thinking about it. It's worthwhile. Sometimes you spend 20 minutes looking at something, it might save you hours because you might come up with a better way. Or you might save making an error. That's the other thing. If you think about it long enough and look at it a few different ways and think about it, you might just save making a big error. You know, hey, wait a minute, better not do that, you know. Better make sure the new iron goes up behind the old iron so the rain doesn't get behind it, that sort of thing. And then onto the front one, basically the same sort of structure, built by the same dude. Full of dust again. Chicken coop, dusty chicken coop goings on there. Horrible. So I moved the camera. The camera's actually a good 20 meters away there, using the zoom because it was too dusty for the camera. It's horrible. All right for the unskilled labourer, but no good for the camera. It's no good. Bang, bang, bang. The neighbours aren't going to like that, dude. Noisy business, the corrugated iron. This went on for a couple of days, you know. Bang, 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 bang. Bang, bang, bang. And then it ended up like that. There we are. 2 chicken coops. A truck will be required for that, but we're going to wait. You'll see the next project after this one's even bigger, so that pile will be bigger before we eventually take it away. So then we needed to put some 20mm strips in place to fasten the corrugate to. And again, first time working with corrugated iron for the unskilled labourer, so cutting it with a saw and all this sort of stuff was the first experience of that. Wasn't too bad. This is tricky, laying the corrugated iron around a corner. Again, a lot of thinking went into this and looking at what had been done at different other parts of the house to try and get some clues. But that was pretty tricky, one person to fasten that and get it to bend around the corner neatly and line up on the other side with where it was supposed to line up. Yeah, quite tricky stuff, that stuff. And noisy, as you can see by the earmuffs. Banging nails into corrugated iron is a really noisy pastime. I really felt for the neighbours. It must have been terrible. Bang, 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 bang. Went on for a couple of days. First demolishing. Oh, this is interesting too. Making flashing. Again, never been done before by the unskilled labourer, but trying to make flashing that was going to fit neatly above that door there, because above the door was wood, which was protected by the chicken coop. Now the chicken coop's gone, flashing needed to go up. So it was pretty tricky. Bang, 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 bang. Bang, bang, bang. Lots of nails. One every, what was it, about 15 centimeters or something. Bang, bang, bang. Be fantastic if it was as easy as it looks in these videos. It jumps ahead and all the corrugated iron all fits all neatly there and it's all wonderful. It wasn't quite that easy. There was lots of thinking and cutting and shaping, and there's also beams at the top there that had to be cut around, so the corrugated iron had to go around bits that stuck out, beams that stick out and things like that. So it's pretty fiddly, but the end result wasn't too bad. It was reasonably neat. Better than it was, better than that ugly chicken coop, don't you think? And then again with the brown. Looks a bit better, doesn't it? Fabulous. Okay. Yeah, it was a bit marginal. That corrugate there above those doors was a bit marginal. It's rusty. The paint's got rust inhibitor in it, so it was a question of whether to replace it again. It's the time and the money that goes into it. You know, it's really difficult with the renovation in a place like this. How much time and money to spend. So it's just a shed, you know. So as long as it's structurally sound and looks reasonably okay. Then we're onto this downpipe that was cut around the chicken coop, so it looked funny out there in the middle of nowhere on its own. So we want to put it back around the corner. Looks a bit neater. Again, hardly anybody would ever go out to this part of the property anyway, so it's sort of not so important. The main reason to do this was just structural, to make it last better, and to make it look better as well. Looks neater and tidier. Also lifts the value of the place a little bit as well. And then round the back, this was really tricky. That space was just wide enough for the base of the ladder, but there's a really deep channel that runs, a water channel that runs along the bottom, so I had to, every time we moved the ladder, I had to put timber underneath each leg to balance it all out, so it was level, reasonably level, and sort of squeezed between that fence and the house. It was really tricky. So anyway, we're up to the before and after already. This is what it looked like before. Horrible, wasn't it? That wasn't going to last either. That wall there was getting worse and worse, being exposed to the weather. And those white ants would have eventually got bored with that wood and would have moved on to the main building, so had to go. Fortunately, the main buildings don't have any white ant in them at all yet, so that's why this sort of maintenance is a good idea as well, because white ants are a horrible thing. They'll eat a wall in a very short period of time. And that tin, allowed to continue to rust like that, eventually you end up hot with holes, and then the water gets in through the holes and mud walls start collapsing and it gets very ugly. So that's what it looks like now. That looks a bit better, doesn't it? Didn't go too crazy with the white trim. Gets a bit silly. I was thinking about above the door there with white, but nah, we sprayed it brown. Spray it brown, done, next. Downpipe looks a bit better. That looks a bit better there, doesn't it? Fit it in neatly in the corner. Yeah, see, simple. Matches the rest of the other buildings too. Fabulous, happy with that. That side, that was tricky, getting up to the top of that side there with the extension ladder. That angle wasn't good. As people that use extension ladders know, you need to have a good angle on your extension ladder to stop it falling, but you can see how steep it was. That was horrible. Dangerous it was. Unskilled labour was in peril getting up to the top there. If that ladder had fallen, it would have been quite the scene, but anyway, survived it. Yeah, left that dodgy bit the way it was there. It's structurally fine, so just painted it to protect it. That's okay, that's fine. No point in pulling off corrugate and replacing it unless you really have to. And this is protected. On the left hand side of the screen is a 2-story house, and so this wall doesn't get any sun on it at all, and very little rain, so it's actually not in bad condition. Those Mado boxes there are actually in pretty good condition compared with the rest of the other buildings, so very well protected wall, that one, so didn't worry about it too much. Just made it look neater and cleaner, and tidied up the bits and pieces that were lying around on the ground out here, and just made it a little bit more under control. So yes, happy with that project. went reasonably well. The corrugated iron was a new and interesting experience, which is good because you'll see in the next renovation video that experience will be relevant big time. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. More videos coming soon.